Hello, everybody. Well, do we have an exciting new moon coming up? The Gemini new moon on June the 18th, 2023 at 26 degrees Gemini. I'm going to call this the Yes We Can new moon. You know, it's a mutable sign and times are changing, but oh boy, the chart. And I'm recording this on an amazing Sagittarius full moon. And I always love this time of year because I'm a very mutable person myself. So Sagittarius and Gemini really, resonates with my chart. But it really feels like times are changing, and we feels like with this new moon, major changes are coming. Of course, it doesn't work alone, but let's look at this new moon and talk about how it all kind of ties into everything else. But before we do, I pulled a card and I'm going to ask you to subscribe to my channel, leave me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, maybe share the video. All of this helps the algorithms. And also check out the merch below. I'm actually wearing one of my t-shirts right now, Cosmic Owl, my lovely logo created by my friend Chloe Plasma. Yes, I did pay her to do it. And there's mugs, there's bags, there's stickers, there's t-shirts, there's sweatshirts, there's all kinds of fun things, and no obligation, but they're fun. If you feel like being a bit of a cosmic owl in the world, then check out the merch below. There's also an Amazon store, an Amazon influencer store with some recommendations that I'll be adding over time. But let's have a look at this card for this new moon. The Princess of Wands. Fire. Grab the tiger by the tail and reach for the stars. This is very Aries. Look at her horns on it. This is take action. This is change. And I know Aries is a cardinal sign, which means initiate change. But the mutable sign, which is this new moon, is a new moon. So it's one new, and that means taking change. And this is grabbing this change and this transformation and really creating something with it. And honestly, this new moon excites me beyond belief. So let's have a look at the chart. So by the time I'm recording this on June the 2nd, and by the time we get to the full moon on June the 18th, Pluto will have moved back into Capricorn to finish mopping up in that sign. Haumea has moved back into Libra a little while ago, but these two are approaching one of their squares, one of their 13 squares this decade. That is the aspect of the decade to my mind. And really, they never separate because they're always within orb of a square. But they're approaching another exact square, and they're both at that critical anaretic degree. And also by the time of this new moon, Sedna, this is Sedna here at 0 Gemini, will have moved into Gemini for the first time in 11,408 years. So these slow moving planets are doing some major changes, and we are going to really start feeling the end of, how can I put this? The end of things that have been breaking down and the real beginning of something new. We are hurtling into the new paradigm now, my loves, in a big way. And it seems that change is coming at a faster and faster pace. So this is the new moon, 26 degrees, 43 minutes, Gemini. Conjunct Juno, sacred contracts, sacred partnerships, commonly called the marriage asteroid, but the asteroid means far more than that. I like to call it now the sacred contracts asteroid. Then this moon Juno, well, new moon Juno conjunction is in a square to Neptune in Pisces, Ceres in Virgo. These two will have their exact opposition on June the 10th or 11th, depending where you live. And I might do a whole separate video about that opposition, but for now I'll talk a little bit about it. And this is forming a mutable grand cross or grand square with the Galactic Center. Now, really, the Galactic Center, Sagittarius A, this cluster of things out there that is at the center of our Milky Way, this black hole that has actually been photographed now, is said to clear out the old information and emit new information that we need to know. I always get very excited when the Galactic Center is activated because my ascendant is conjunct this degree. And those who are connected to the Galactic Center are said to have a connection to what's coming, the voices that are coming from the cosmos. I like to think I have. I'm not the only one, there's many of us. Now, also, look at all these other things that are at the end of signs. Well, all these other things. Vesta. Vesta is in Taurus. Vesta is the sacred inner flame, also the flame of the hearth. That's at 28 degrees Taurus and forming an Earth grand trine with Pluto and Haumea. So I'll talk about that as well. And one other little last aspect that I'm going to talk about is that the new moon is in a sextile to Eris, the shit stirrer who stirs the pot and fights for outsiders. So I'll go over all that and what that means in a little bit. First of all, though, let's look at the numbers. 26, because this is at 26 degrees. The 26 reduces to 8 because 2 plus 6 is 8. So, but it also carries within it the vibrations of the numbers 2 and 6. So 8 is the number of, said to be the number of cause and effect. It's kind of, if as you reap, so shall you sow. Sorry about that. But also the 8 is a number of stability and infinity. If you think of the 8, it's a perfectly kind of balanced number. And if you turn it on its side, it's infinity. So the 8 is a number of great strength as well. This is one of the reasons I'm calling this a yes, we can new moon, as well as because I picked this card of grabbing the tiger by the tail and going for it. So this really is also the number of great success and great kind of strength, as I said. So dive into that. You know, the 2 plus the 6 is the 8, and it's got this great power to it. Also, if you add the 2s and the 6s, the 6 is a very creative number. It's the great mother, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And 2 is the divine feminine. So just the numbers of the degree of this lovely new moon really kind of resonate. Now it's on a 9-day. Let me look at the time, 12:37 a.m. In Washington, D.C. So it's actually on the 17th for me on the West Coast, and anybody kind of to the west of Washington, D.C. So I'm not going to talk too much about the numbers of the day, but it's on a 6 month. So we've got the 6 in the 6 as well. I just think this is a real opportunity to change things and to really create things. Now, mutable energies are really also a number of change, but Gemini, it's funny, we've just been having a whole thing on my Facebook page, Cosmic Owl Astrology about Gemini. But Gemini is a sign, the thinker. Okay, it's a mutable air sign, and it's about perception and sharing of connections and ideas. It's about changeability and curiosity, and it's adaptability, and it's very lively, very multifaceted, and very nervous energy. And but it's also Mercury ruled, and conjunct this sacred contracts. There's a real vibe of kind of creating community contracts on this new moon in new ways. Now, this new moon conjunct Juno is directly facing off to the galactic center. And Gemini is also a receiving sign. It's what we're learning. It's duality, and it takes things in. It's very much a kind of mimic and kind of changes its mind by every time it gets new information. So if you think about the energy of this new moon facing the galactic center, almost to the exact degree, it's getting kind of the voice of God, if you like, from the mind of our solar system, our Milky Way, our galaxy. It's receiving this transmission of information of things we need to change our perceptions and to create new sacred contracts and new relationships and new communities. Now, also, this new moon is in square to Neptune in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces is on its way out of the sign of Pisces. Neptune will move into Aries in March of 2025. You might think, well, that's a long time away. Well, it's less than 2 years, and Neptune's been in there since 2011, so it's on the way. But Neptune, as Neptune finishes their time in the sign of Pisces, is square to that galactic center. Now, Neptune in Pisces is so much about the collective unconscious and the amniotic fluid and the connection with source and intuition and empathy and spirit, and create that creative cosmic soup of impulse. In many ways, Neptune in Pisces is that chaos from which we are born, from which our whole universe is born. So if you add the galactic center, Neptune in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces and the galactic center being in an ongoing square right until Neptune moves into Aries, you can see that we are really birthing something very new. And this new moon is taking in information about what we are creating. Now, on the other side of this grand cross, this mutable grand cross that's tense, that's pushing for change, is Ceres, the Great Mother. I'm actually going to be writing a book about Ceres. I had another book in mind. It just didn't really want to be born. So Ceres it is. I've had that book in my mind for a while. Now, Ceres is in Virgo on this, and Ceres is very aligned with the sign of Virgo. Doesn't really have a rulership. I'm all for doing away the concepts of rulerships anyway. I don't think they control the signs, which is what rulerships the word rulership conveys. However, Ceres is very, very aligned with the sign of Virgo. Ceres is about what feeds us and what nourishes us and what nurtures us. Ceres is the Great Mother. It's kind of about this parent-child relationship connected to Gaia and our relationship with the earth. In the myth, when Persephone was kidnapped by Hades and taken to the underworld, incidentally, we'll be looking at that myth and how it relates in great detail to this summer's Venus retrograde. We'll be looking at that in my Venus retrograde class that begins on July the 22nd. There's a link in the description. There's a 2-pay available. The calls start on July the 19th. It's 8 calls over 7 weeks, includes shamanic journey work and healing processes, healing practices, also includes storytelling and myth and tarot and all kinds of things. So check that out. It's an amazing class. This is my 5th time running a Venus retrograde class. But anyway, of course it includes astrology as well. But Ceres is, to my mind, Ceres has been, since her discovery on January the 1st, 1801, has been telling us, has been there in major grief at what we are doing to this planet and what we are doing to each other. And in the myths, Ceres killed the crops. Okay. She put the earth into famine. People were dying and starving because Ceres was so upset and so grief-stricken. And then Ceres and Hades and Venus had to come to a point of compromise. Well, here's Ceres in Virgo saying, what are you feeding yourself? We're finding out, we're being told what we need to start becoming whole unto ourselves again in the sign of Virgo, how we can feed and nourish ourselves and each other, how our lives can find more meaning and more usefulness again, how we're moving away from this me, greed is good, my way or the highway kind of lifestyle. We're gradually moving into this more community, collective, humanitarian kind. And I'm not talking about political. Before anybody goes, we don't want socialism. I actually think something very different is coming. That's more connected, more organic, more people wanting and choosing to help each other. And I just think that's the way things are shifting. It may not feel that way all the time when we look at the outer world, when we look at the last blast of the patriarchy, as they're trying to ban books and ban drag shows and invoke laws to ban abortion as well. But this is just a resistance. I think things are going to change. Incidentally, Pluto's regress into Capricorn and Hermes into Libra, they are kind of mopping up a lot of the change that started. And they are bringing to light what needs to change as well, which is coming up in the form of some of the awful that seems to be happening in the world. But if you look for the good, the progress that's happening, there is a lot of progress happening as well. Now, the Earth Grand Trine from Pluto to Haumea, Pluto in Capricorn to Haumea in Libra, not to Haumea, from Pluto in Capricorn to Ceres in Virgo and Vesta in Taurus, says that this is bringing us down to Earth. We are really realizing now that we are stewards of the earth. We do not control, we do not rampage, we do not ravage. We are stewards. We're here to take care of the earth and each other. I have friends that are planting clover lawns instead of lawns because they need less maintenance, they don't need watering, so on and so forth. People are xeriscaping. People are driving electric cars. People are changing their lifestyle at a faster and faster rate of knots. Okay. And this change is going to continue. There's no going back. Incidentally, well, I'll stay on this Grand Trine first of all. This earthly Grand Trine also, because it's about the inner flame and the Vesta, the inner flame of the hearth and the state, indicates to my mind that some of the states in this world are remembering what their role is as well, of being stewards of the people. Again, it may not seem like it, but it does feel like there's a gradual shift towards something more aligned, more community oriented, more humanitarian, and so on and so forth. Now, the sextile, the lovely sextile from the new moon to Eris in Aries, is going to provide a little bit of a shake-up. Eris likes to pull down that picket fence. She likes to reveal the artifice, what's behind the facade. She likes to shake things up again. And so with this being a mutable Grand Cross new moon, there's definitely going to be some shake-ups. There could even be some real kind of like, whoa, what's happening there? Some real sudden shifts with it being a grand cross and very tense. There could be some major changes. But overall, I think it's more about this transformation that we are really heading into as we head into this new paradigm of saying, live a more aligned life. You know, it's my belief that people like Elon Musk are there to kind of show us where we've gone wrong, because you know, whilst he's yeah, well, I won't go there. That's my opinion. But anyway, it's my opinion. They've come to the fore to die out, if you like. Okay. But you know, Teslas, I like the car. so we're all allowed under a new moon in Gemini to be able to see two sides of every coin. But the crux of this matter is, of this whole new moon, most of the energies that are connected to this new moon are in the last 5 degrees of signs. That means things are shifting to something very new. We're finishing up in the old signs and moving to something new. Yes, Pluto has gone back into Capricorn to mop up his destruction and restructuring of the institutions and our relationship to the structures and institutions in our lives. That doesn't mean they're all going to collapse, by the way. It means they're going to be restructured in some way, and I think they will be. Haumea in Libra is coming back in to rebirth something new in the way of justice and equality and harmony. Haumea is pure creation, pure birth. Ceres at the anaretic or last degree of Virgo is saying it's time to get real and useful and get down to the details of how you want to be useful in how we nourish and nurture and feed each other and ourselves. Vesta at the end of Taurus is going, return to that sacred flame of your core values. Bring some stability, bring some solid, reliable energy back into the energy. Neptune at the end of Pisces is saying, you know, have you realized yet how interconnected we are? Are you ready to kind of step into that chaos of creation and amniotic fluid and really kind of birth something new? Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's this pit of creation before we move into Aries and start a whole new cycle. Quite astounding, all of this energy. And Juno, there's our sacred contracts with each other. And Juno was also the goddess of women and children, and she's conjunct this new moon, staring that galactic center in the face as we defrag our old system and create space for the new to come in. A couple of other things I want to mention on this new moon are that Venus and Mars are less than 5 degrees apart on this. Venus is heading into her retrograde a day after this new moon. I have a preview call, a free preview call for the Venus retrograde. So if you're not sure about the Venus class at this point, or if you are sure, either way, the Venus retrograde, the Venus preview, Venus retrograde preview call is on June the 19th, and that's going to give you a preview of why this retrograde is going to be huge and why this summer is just going to be so big for the changes that we have coming in our paradigm in this world. And Venus, but Venus and Mars, the divine feminine, divine masculine, the two halves of everything that is in the world within all of us, are as close as it gets before they start separating again on her retrograde in the sign of Leo, the sign of the heart. and the sign of leadership, and the sign of like the emperor, if you like. Okay, what else? What else? What else? Oh, the day before this new moon, I knew there was something else I wanted to mention. Saturn stations retrograde. So this new moon has more tide turning energy, and yes, we can energy than even on first glimpse. Saturn is stationing retrograde at 7 degrees 12 minutes of Pisces, and we'll go back to 0 Pisces. So since he ingressed into Pisces, it has never moved for more than 7 degrees. 7 is a Saturn number as well. It's a number of years in a quarter Saturn cycle. It's Saturn in Pisces is asking us to go over and keep reviewing the structure of our relationship with our interconnectedness and our relationship with source and spirit and all things like that, but especially with the collective unconscious. So this is a turning tide. Saturn, the big breaks, if you like, turning in the sign of Pisces could cause some big push of watery energy. There could be some floods. There could be some floods of emotions as we move between this full moon and on June the 3rd and June the 18th. Kind of a little concerning because they said it's about 2 weeks time till the creek near to us is going to reach its peak. There could be some floods of emotion too. Floods of thought, changing minds. It's kind of like this, it feels like old ideas are going to get swept away, washed away, and new ideas are going to start coming in behind. If you think of like you watch the waves at the beach, the big wave comes crashing in, and then the whole sea seems to go suck back. And I believe that happens in a tsunami. The sea gets sucked back and then the flood comes in. So this is kind of what this new moon feels like. Now, do remember it is a new moon, and for around 3 days around the new moon, it's the no moon phase. That's the time to kind of sit in the dark and really think about what's shifting and changing for you. The real action will come after that, a couple of days after the new moon, so around June the 20th, around the solstice, in fact. It's time to be the change that you want to be in the world. This is, yes, we can do it. So before I move on to the symbols, I want to remind you again to subscribe to my channel, check out the Venus course, check out the Venus preview call that's free. Also give me a thumbs up. And I'm going to read you, I am going to read the Sabian symbol. Some of the languaging of some of the old Sabian symbols I find a little bit old school, patriarchal words that are kind of not cool to say anymore. So I might change the language of this Sabian symbol. This is a traveler coming out of the forest. So this is a symbol of human enthusiasm or of self-consciousness mobilized in a freshness or naivete of self-realization and dramatized by an irresistible desire for success and recognition in an everyday world. Here are the enlarged horizons which follow from the individual's faith in his own potentialities and his willingness to draw on them prodigally and in generous cooperation with her fellows. I'm going to say I should change it all to her. Humans thus find there is resources of all nature available for his, it says exploitation. I see some of these words, that's not what I get. Okay, that's Mark Edmund Jones. I'm sorry, Mark Edmund Jones. You were amazing. You were wonderful, but you lived in a different age. My interpretation of the Sabian symbol is, yes, Gemini is naivete, is self-realization. Really, this new moon has this irresistible desire kind of vibe. We are coming out of the forest with enlarged horizons from this information coming in from the Galactic Center, saying it's, yes, it's self-release through joy, and saying that we can come out of the forest, as it were, and actually be the change that we want to be in the world. The Chandra symbol. This is much food stored in a cool cave. You notice both of these symbols start within a cave, start in an inner life. Okay. The Chandra, John Sandbach says that this is about the opposite forces. Gemini is a twin sign of assimilation, the food, and elimination, the process of cleaning the aura. He says, when we clear away impurities and all that we no longer need, we are then ready for more nourishment. Now I'm just laughing as I read this, okay, because nourishment, Ceres, clearing away impurities, Neptune in Pisces, the wave washing everything away. And then he says communication is not just about focusing on what one has to express, but also about being aware of how one's offerings are taken in. But it's also about listening, I'm going to add. But he says this degree has the ability to remove blocks to communication, as well as waiting for the best openings and opportunities to give what it has, but also for taking in yourself. Okay. So, wow, this new moon is just, it's just a tidal wave of change, and it's a tidal wave of, yes, we can do it. Okay. I find mutable full moons like this extremely exciting, but I would, because it's right on my ascendant descendant. So it's probably going to shift who I show up as in the world. But I hope you can all find this exciting and feel the butterflies rising up, because this is one of real push for change, saying we're kind of finishing up, mopping up what we're leaving behind, and we are ready to start birthing and creating the new. So grab that tiger by the tail, give me a subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I will see you on the next one.